It's the real-life story of the love between a mother and son, who bravely raises her little son, Rocky, a little boy with a rare disease that eventually distorts his face into a cruel mask of deformity.
Rocky Dennis was born with a condition so rare that doctors gave him almost no chance of survival, yet he lived far longer than predicted. His mother, Rusty Dennis, became known as the wild, reckless woman who somehow raised him anyway. For years, the public story was simple: a bad mother, a suffering child, and a tragedy that ended too soon. But the story that reached the public was shaped by Hollywood, filtered through other people, and missing the parts Rusty said were never told honestly. Before she died, she finally revealed details about Rocky's life and the choices she made that did not match the famous version. The truth she shared was harder, stranger, and far more complicated than anything shown on screen. Join us as unravel the heartbreaking confession of Rocky Dennis's mom, a life that broke every rule. Long before her life became tied to a medical story that many would later remember, Rusty grew up in Brooklyn in a working-class home shaped by routine and struggle. Her father earned a living as a truck driver, often away for long hours, while she shared her early years with her two sisters, Dorothy and Bonnie. The family followed Jewish traditions, which formed part of her upbringing, but her teenage years slowly pulled her away from structure and into a rougher path filled with rebellion and independence. By the time she reached 13, her connection to school had already broken down. She was removed from junior high because she stopped attending regularly, drifting instead into a different environment that exposed her to new influences. At 14, she had already begun experimenting with illegal substances and spent time around biker groups, which shaped her outlook and lifestyle. A year later, she fully left school and began working as a hoochie-coochie dancer at Coney Island. At 17, she entered her first marriage with a truck driver named Tommy Mason. Within 2 years, she became a mother when her son Joshua was born. The relationship did not provide stability, and the marriage struggled with ongoing problems. Not long after Joshua's birth, she returned to live with her parents in Coney Island, seeking a more secure place to raise her child. During this period,
But she gives him no pity, no compensation. She raises him to feel special, gifted, better than most.
she worked as an exhibit hawker, taking on whatever roles were available to support herself and her young son. In 1961, her life shifted again when she married Roy Dennis. That same year, they relocated to Covina, California, starting over in a new environment. On December 4, their son, Roy L. Dennis, known as Rocky, was born. Unfortunately, during his early childhood, he experienced frequent ear and sinus infections, leading to constant medical visits. Doctors at the University of California, Los Angeles Medical Center, saw him several times each week as his condition continued to raise concerns. When Rocky was only 2 years old, a routine medical procedure revealed something far more serious. During a tonsil operation, doctors noticed unusual signs in his x-rays. Further testing confirmed a rare condition called craniodiaphyseal dysplasia, which caused abnormal calcium buildup in his skull. This condition would slowly change the shape of his face and increase pressure inside his head. Medical professionals expected his vision and hearing to decline over time, along with growing physical pain that would become harder to manage as he aged. They believed he wouldn't make it past age 7. Despite the diagnosis, life at home continued. Rocky lived with his parents and his older half-brother Joshua in Covina, and later Glendora. The household often had visits from Rusty's biker friends, who formed a strong support network, especially after her divorce from Roy Dennis. She focused on giving Rocky a life that felt as normal as possible. Rusty believed that if a person could become sick, they could also make themselves well, and she passed this idea on to Dennis. He learned to manage his pain and cope with the physical challenges brought on by his condition. But there was something about her as a mother that stood out. Against limits and labels. Years after facing early medical fears, Rusty stepped into the public eye in 1985 during an appearance on a San Francisco interview show. During that time, she shared details about the difficult steps she took to get her son into school. She had adjusted his age so he could start earlier, enrolling him at 4.5 years old. When school officials later discovered the truth, They refused to keep him in the program and instead directed her toward a separate institution for children with disabilities. She accepted this option for a time, allowing him to spend a few years there learning basic, structured lessons. As time passed, her thinking began to change, and she no longer wanted her son separated from other children. When he was 7, she made efforts to place him in a regular public school again, but faced strong resistance from staff members. Many assumed her son had intellectual limitations, but she believed their concerns were not truly about his ability to learn.
You're going to have a very special moment this morning as we give you the real-life story, because our guest is none other than Rocky's real mom.
She felt that his physical appearance made people uncomfortable, and that school officials worried about how other parents might react. All Rusty wanted was to secure a place for him in a normal classroom where he could learn alongside other children. At the same time, his health continued to create new challenges. His eyesight gradually became worse, and by the age of 6, he was considered legally blind. Medical experts believed his vision problems would prevent him from learning how to read. Despite these predictions, his daily life continued with effort and persistence. He practiced focusing on words and sounds, working through difficulties that others believed would stop him completely. His mother refused to accept limits placed on his ability, continuing to guide him through learning in her own way. Her approach to raising him remained firm and consistent, even when professionals disagreed. She ignored advice that discouraged him from attending public school or learning at the same level as other children. Instead, she kept pushing forward, building his confidence and encouraging independence. This created a unique environment where he was expected to adapt and grow, even when facing physical pain and social pressure from others around him. One time, when he was 7, she took him on a trip to Las Vegas, where a moment in a busy hotel lobby became important in shaping his understanding of the world. As he watched people move around, he saw a dwarf girl and noticed how her appearance drew attention from others. As she walked past him, Rocky giggled, but his mother used that moment to guide his thinking, helping him see his condition not as something to hide, but as something that made him stand apart in a world that often struggled to accept what it did not understand. Meanwhile, there were struggles and defining moments that would soon follow. Living up to destiny. After the marriage between Rusty and Roy Dennis came to an end, both parents continued to take part in raising their son, though most of the daily care remained with her. She stayed deeply involved in every part of his life, especially when it came to his education. She had managed to place him in a public school, pushing past earlier resistance. At first, he struggled to keep up with other students, as he had missed time and faced learning challenges. Over time, he began to adjust, working harder each day until he reached the same level as his classmates and eventually moved ahead. As his confidence grew, his personality began to stand out just as much as his academic progress. He became known for his humor and kindness, building strong connections with people around him. His classmates responded to his attitude, and he earned recognition among his peers for his friendly nature and positive spirit. During school and camp activities, he was named the best camper. He also began helping other students with their studies, offering tutoring sessions, and even setting his own price, showing independence and a clear sense of value in his abilities. Outside the classroom, he developed personal interests that reflected both curiosity and focus. He spent time studying the night sky, learning patterns and details that he kept in his memory. During one summer camp experience, he formed a close bond with a girl who could not see, creating a connection that was based on shared understanding rather than appearance. These experiences helped shape his outlook, allowing him to build relationships in ways that went beyond physical differences and into deeper emotional connection. As the years passed,
scenes that Rocky went through during the movie, they used some of Springsteen's things. One of them I think was growing up.
His health condition continued to worsen. In the weeks leading up to his demise, his headaches became more severe, and his strength began to decline. He eventually needed a wheelchair, signaling a clear shift in his physical state. His mother recognized the signs and contacted the hospital, preparing for what she believed was approaching. But Rocky didn't want to be on one of those hospital machines, and his mother promised him that wouldn't happen. She ensured that his comfort stayed a priority. On the night of October the 3rd, 1978, She gathered friends at their home in an effort to lift his spirits. The lively atmosphere was meant to bring him some relief from the pain he had been going through. Later that night, he woke up with another intense headache, and she cared for him in the same way she had done for years, sending him to his room to make himself well. The following day, while she was away handling legal matters related to a situation she believed had been a mix-up, she received news from her partner Bernie that her son had passed away. In the period that followed, she got married to Bernie, but the weight of grief made it difficult for the relationship to continue, and they separated shortly after. Her son's body was given to a medical research center at UCLA, where it was used for scientific study before being cremated. The official cause of his death was identified as sudden arrhythmic syndrome, a condition possibly linked to his illness. After some time, she left her previous surroundings behind, moved to San Francisco, and began following a new spiritual path through Buddhism. Little did she know that Rocky's story would change their lives forever. The Mask, the hidden truth behind the film. Years after Rocky's life came to an end, his story reached beyond family memories and entered a much wider space. During a visit to the University of California, Los Angeles Center for Genetic Research, screenwriter Anna Hamilton Phelan came across details about him that left a strong impression. His personality, marked by humor and a warm spirit, stood out even through medical records and personal accounts. That experience pushed her to begin shaping a story inspired by his life. From there, the idea slowly turned into a screenplay that would later be developed into a major film project. The film Mask was released in 1985, directed by Peter Bogdanovich and written by Anna Hamilton Phelan. While it drew from real events, many parts were changed to add dramatic effects, including scenes and conversations that were adjusted for emotional impact. Rusty agreed to sell the rights to her story for $15,000, allowing the production to move forward. The film later achieved strong commercial success, earning over $48 million at the box office and bringing widespread attention to a story that had once been known only to a small circle. Even with that success, Rusty viewed the finished film in a very different way. She saw it less as a true reflection of real events and more as a softened version shaped for entertainment. Her original hope had been for a story that focused mainly on her son's strength and determination, something that could inspire families facing similar challenges. Instead, the film placed strong attention on her own role also, turning her into a central figure in the narrative. This shift changed how the story was received, especially in how her actions and personality were presented to the public. She rejected the film's portrayal of her lifestyle, insisting her substance use was a social choice, not a sign of weakness, though she praised the lead actress for capturing her personality. Frustration grew with the soundtrack. Rocky loved Bruce Springsteen, but the studio replaced his songs with Bob Seger tracks without notice. Rusty felt this change erased a vital connection to her son, altering how his story and passions were represented. For her, these differences mattered deep, shaping how the public understood both her life and her children's true selves. The director reacted strongly to this decision and took legal action against the studio, claiming that the change violated his creative control over the film. The dispute continued for years before a later version of the film restored the original musical vision. This updated release came decades after the first version reached audiences, bringing the story closer to what had originally been intended, while also reopening conversations about the deeper truths behind the version most people had first seen, setting the stage for details that remained largely overlooked. Though that was not all, there was still one important detail that was left out: a mother's sacrifice. As public attention around the film continued to grow, Rusty began explaining how the story on screen differed from the life she had lived. In conversations with reporters, she made it clear that while many parts of the film followed real events, some key details had been changed. The timeline had been compressed, turning more than a decade of real experiences into a single year for dramatic effect. Another major difference involved her older son, Joshua, whose presence had been completely removed from the film, even though he had been an important part of the family's life and history. Behind the scenes, the financial side of the film carried a deeper purpose than most people realized. The payment she received for the rights to her story was not used for personal gain or comfort. At that time, her older son Joshua was facing a serious illness that required expensive medical care. The money from the film deal became a critical resource, helping to cover treatment costs during a difficult period. Her decision to share Rocky's story was closely tied to her effort to support Joshua as he fought for his health. During the mid-1980s, Joshua had built a life in San Francisco, working as a writer and becoming part of a creative community. Not long after, he was diagnosed with Kaposi's sarcoma, a severe form of cancer connected to AIDS. This diagnosis placed him among many patients facing limited treatment options during that period. Around the same time, Rusty was working as a counselor, helping individuals dealing with addiction, and she planned to extend her efforts by supporting people with terminal illnesses through community programs. As a teen, Joshua came out as gay to his mother, Rusty, who supported him despite hoping he might be bi for grandchildren. Their bond evolved through personal differences, and she stayed by his side during his illness. When he passed in 1987 at 32, the family faced deep loss. Years earlier, Rocky had faced a medical choice that could change his appearance and extend his life, but chose to remain true to himself. Carrying the weight of both experiences, Rusty eventually embraced her old lifestyle fully, a reality far richer than what the film portrayed. What she did not expect was how it would end for her. An imperfect reality. In the later years of her life, Rusty continued to face ongoing struggles connected to substance use, and these issues often brought her into contact with the legal system. Over time, a series of arrests and charges began to shape this period of her life. In 1996, she received a 2-year prison sentence after admitting to possession of methamphetamine. This marked one of several legal consequences tied to her lifestyle, reflecting a pattern that continued into the following years. By 1999, her situation had not improved, and she again faced legal trouble after authorities discovered illegal substances and related items inside her mobile home in Azusa. She chose not to contest the charges, and although she was initially sentenced to prison, the outcome was later adjusted to probation. Despite this opportunity, further violations followed. In 2001, she was placed on probation once again for substance possession, but this period also ended with another violation. In 2002, she returned to prison for over a year after failing to meet court conditions, followed by another term in 2005 for substance possession. These repeated setbacks marked a struggle she could not easily escape, contrasting sharply with earlier years devoted to raising her children and caring for their health. In October 2006, a new crisis struck. While riding a 3-wheel motorcycle, a tire came off, causing her to crash into a curb and hit a pole. She suffered severe injuries, including broken legs and lung damage. The accident was initially reported without revealing her identity, leaving her ordeal largely unnoticed. As time passed, complications from her injuries grew worse. About a month after the crash, she developed an infection that her body could not overcome. Sadly, she passed away on November 11, 2006, at a hospital in Montebello, California. At that stage of her life, she had been living in Glendora with her sister Dorothy and her niece, remaining close to family members. She was 70 years old at the time of her passing, closing a life that had moved through many difficult and complex chapters. Her final wishes reflected the same practical mindset she had shown in earlier years, with a preference for her body to be used for scientific purposes or cremated afterward. Even in the end, there was a sense of purpose tied to her choices. People who had known her described a personality that did not fit into simple categories, shaped by both strength and contradiction. She had lived in a way that resisted easy labels, making decisions that often challenged expectations. Those who reflected on her life often returned to the role she played as a mother, especially during the years she spent raising Rocky. Her approach had never followed traditional paths.
Dear Rocky, I miss you, and you're away at camp, you're not in your room.
But it had been shaped by determination and a refusal to allow limits to define her child. The story she left behind did not settle into a simple ending, instead opening into a conversation about a life filled with struggle, resilience, and choices that continued to stand out long after her passing leading into a deeper reflection that many never fully explored. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.